Ultimate Chicken Horse is my favorite game of all time. There's plenty that I love about this game, but I have plenty of pet peeves too that I'd hope the average YouTube viewer will let me talk about instead of a therapist. This video is not meant to put down this game nor Clever Endeavor. This game and its community have practically raised me, and with over 4,000 hours clocked in, it's pretty fair to assume that there's still lots to love. How on earth did I have a girlfriend? Alright, on to the things that will turn me into a serial killer at the ripe age of 48. If you've watched my video ranking all of the developer maps, which if you haven't, don't, you probably know most of what I'm about to say, so I'm gonna speedrun complain any percent for the segment. The Pier Metro don't let you respawn when their gimmicks are on screen, Pyramid is way too tight and has a ceiling higher than the average drug addict, I'm not a huge fan of the elevator in Old Mansion, although I don't mind it, I just think the level will be better with it removed. Crumbling Bridge is a cool idea, but executed worse than Piglet trying to do math. Ballroom has an interesting gimmick, but they just had to make the level go downwards. Metal Plant f***ing exists, and Iceberg is just overall poorly designed. If you want more detail on why I don't like these things, then after this video, go watch that one, though I can't watch it myself because I'll get too much dysphoria looking at myself, even if I look very different now. And besides, I'm gonna remake that video for this channel anyways, so maybe watch it to see how my opinions change, I don't know. But with that being said, let's move on to the critiques that you haven't heard me ever say. Let's go over a couple items that just bug me, starting with jetpacks. God, these things make me want to jump out of a window. Jetpacks go against most everything that makes this game fun and interesting. Here's a cool little setup I made on Waterfall. Takes a good bit of skill to complete, but overall it's very satisfying and pretty damn cool to be able to beat this. Here's the same exact setup where there's a jetpack at the start. Wow, this is so fun. This is so hard, bro. Such a fun game. I love playing video games. If this is one of, if not your favorite item in the game, then you're bad! Everyone laugh at this user for being bad at video games! Coins are a staple item in this game, especially in challenge mode. In challenge levels, they usually provide a harder path, but with a satisfying reward of obtaining a coin. Similar concept to Geometry Dash's coins, except if your base after base is first and third coins for some reason. So in challenge mode, they're pretty awesome. Then in party mode, they're dog shit. There's a thing in this game that not a whole lot of people know about called host priority. It's an annoying feature that makes it so that if you're the host, you automatically get to move first at the start of every round. This also gets affected by jetpacks, boxing gloves, crumbling blocks, trigger spikes, etc. And this also affects, you guessed it, coins. Mods, give this viewer a round of applause for guessing it affected coins. It's very common for people to place a coin right at the start because they think they're better than everyone. But guess what? You're not! You're just abusing an unfair game mechanic to make you seem like you have actual skill. You suck! The paper airplane machine is a neat idea. Every 4 seconds or so, the machine will shoot out a paper airplane in a straight line that you can ride on until it hits a wall, gets hit by a projectile or a player, or simply interacts with the slightest touch. It's somehow more sensitive than transphobes. However, the problem that I have with them is that 9 times out of 10, this just gets used to fly over the entire map. It's basically jetpacks, but if they weren't as bad, still bad, but at least it's not Metal Plant. But out of all the items, beehives bug me the most. When you touch the hive, it sends a swarm of bees to track down your current IP address. An item that forces you to go fast sounds incredible, right? So tell me why this is a one and done item. This only affects the first person to touch it every round, and most of the time, randos place this right at the very start, forcing everyone to just sit and wait until somebody decides to sacrifice themselves so every other person can play the video game. I don't know how you fumbled that badly on such a good idea. It's not as horrible as jetpacks, but still like, why? It could have been peak gameplay. And I know someone is gonna be like, actually, it's peak gameplay in challenge mode. And yes, you're correct, but in party mode, it sucks! I now want to talk about some things that players do, starting with those unfunny little bastards that make the level impossible when they're losing too badly. I don't get why people do this. I think it's the mentality of, if I can't have fun, then no one can. But if you're not having fun, just join a different lobby. Do you really find it enjoyable to know every single person in the lobby once you banished to the Shadow Realms and kicked out of a meaningless lobby? Don't answer that question if you got a humiliation kink. On the topic of being kicked, if I had a nickel for every time I've been kicked from a lobby less than 10 seconds after joining said lobby, me, I'd have enough money to survive off of 5 guys for a month. I don't understand why this is such a frequent occurrence. I think the average player just doesn't know that you can make your lobbies private or something. It's insanely easy though. You just click this button twice and bada bing bada boom. You're smarter than 80% of the player base. One last kicking related thing. While not as common, it's always really annoying to get kicked after winning a single game. Like, I know I'm ranked top 10 in the world, but let me play the video game for more than 5 minutes, please. The last pet peeve of mine that I want to talk about is how awful the average player is. I know it sounds stupid to complain about people being bad at a children's party game, but I'm a complainer and a hater. I think those are the same thing. I don't care. So I do not care. I said I don't care twice, but I swear, out of all the online multiplayer games that I play, the worst average player is for Ultimate Chicken Horse. I unironically think that at least 20% of the player base, at least 20%, don't even know that there's a sprint button. Granted, these players are usually under 12, but it still makes playing public lobbies less fun than it already is. A few weeks ago, I asked the UCH Discord about pet peeves that they have instead of me. I'll be reading them and giving my own thoughts on them. First one says, the achievements. They're dumb. I don't see an issue with the achievements. I think they all make sense. More often than not, if you just play the game for more than a month or two, you'd have almost all the achievements naturally. Though getting 50 comeback points is dumb, I'll give her that. It should be like 15 or 20 comeback points. Impossible custom levels. I feel like all challenge levels should be playtested and completed by the creator. I don't really care when challenge levels are impossible, because most of the time they're made by children trying to create the hardest thing they can make without realizing they're making it actually possible. It's endearing in a way, to be honest. I also don't believe that challenge levels should be completed by the creator. I get the idea behind it, but there are some really good levels that would otherwise not exist if the creator had to beat it. The types of people who leave right as they join. I very rarely see this, so I don't have much of an opinion on this, but it definitely bothers me a whole lot in Discord servers, and that annoys me. I don't know what first impression was made for all those people, but I'd like them to say something before they dip. When there's like a garzillion modifiers, so you think the game will be easy, but you somehow manage to die the most of the time. I'm gonna be so real, having a shit ton of modifiers makes the game way harder. I have no idea how you find it to be easy. Granted, I don't really enjoy most of the modifiers on party mode, but my point still stands. Though, whenever I see modifiers turn on in the lobby, I just leave. Or maybe the reason I don't see people leave immediately is because I'm the one that does it, huh? My bad, gang. Spamming stuff that requires timings at the same spot. So around 2 or so years ago, tournaments had a common rule where any setup cannot have 4 or more unique cycles. However, this rule got removed because I actually don't know. I guess it wasn't cared about or something, but back then, the meta was mostly centered around timing, while nowadays, the meta is centered around advanced tech and precision. So that's probably why the rule was removed, but I do agree, having 6 or more unique cycles in one setup is incredibly overwhelming to figure out how the hell you're supposed to do this. When you go to place something down, but you misplace it because of the camera movement. You see, I'm a controller player, so I physically cannot have this happen to me, so sucks to be you! I've seen this inconvenience affect people though, sometimes making the level impossible and losing an entire tournament because of it. So even though I can't relate, I can imagine how annoying it is to have this happen to you. Spring takes 2x2 building space. I already don't like springs that much. They're really janky sometimes, and also I'm just not really good at them, so it's mostly a proficiency deficiency on my part. But I do agree that springs being counted as a 2x2 block is really annoying. Like, it makes sense, but I feel like you should at least be able to place spike balls and crossbows on top of them due to them not being a full block. You actually used to be able to place springs on top of spike balls, but that got removed. When you're about to build the peakest build, then a rando bombs the entire build right when you finish it. Yeah, randos don't appreciate peak gameplay. To be fair, most of the time they're too bad at the game to even have a chance to beat your setup, but it's still aggravating. Joining a public lobby and seeing there's 20+ rounds, or when the host returns to lobby because the map he voted for didn't get picked. I don't really care when a public lobby is 20+ rounds. Most of the time I end up winning within like 7, so it doesn't really matter to me. Now, for people that return to the lobby so that they can get the map they want, those people can suffer the fate of having to eat RB. I get it if you're trying to play a custom map or trying to get an unlockable, but if you're just pissy because you didn't get to play a dog shit map like Metal Plant, you can cry harder because I want to play Dance Party. AFK timer. Just in general, it's annoying. To be honest, I don't really care about the AFK timer. Sometimes it shows up when I'm typing a long message, but most of the time it doesn't affect me. I also just have it turned off for my lobby, so I tend to forget that it's even a feature. And for our last submission, it says, when you spend ages building a map just to have to move everything just by a few blocks to have space, or you forget to save. Yeah, this is painful every time. For years, I've been saying that there should be a selection tool, but it still hasn't been added to the game, and I don't think it ever will. Which means if you misplace an entire structure, you're gonna have to move every single goddamn block, and it's the most tedious thing ever. And don't even get me started on forgetting to save or accidentally deleting a level. It takes off 10 years of my life every time, which does mean I will be dying at around 34 give or so, which also means I will not become a serial killer at the ripe age of 48. Damn it! As I stated in the intro, I love this game, and these pet peeves that I have are really just me grasping at straws to hate on something. Except for jetpacks, they can burn the lowest layer of hell for all I care. But hey, I'm just having some fun, and if you had fun watching this video, why not consider subscribing, or leaving a comment, and doing all the basic YouTube algorithm stuff every channel tells you to do. And while you're at it, why don't you tell me some of your pet peeves, either in the comments or on my Discord server, which is linked in the pinned comments. Anyways, this is my first legitimate video on this channel, and I have plenty of videos I'm gonna make in the future. So just know that I really don't like metal plants.